I want to buy a copy of Bone Storm. Here's 99 cents.
Allow me to summarize the proposed transaction. You wish to purchase Bone Storm for 99 cents. Net profit to me, negative $59. Oh, please take my $59. I don't want it. It's yours.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today, Perch and I we're gonna come back and we're gonna fulfill a guarantee. We said we were gonna talk about the next set of up-and-coming creators, specifically writers who you should keep an eye on. We were talking recently about how basically Donny Cates over at Marvel and James Tynion over at DC Comics were kind of those upstart comic creators that were like hitting that next level and really becoming big-time sellers. And we were talking about who are the next generation. That's what we're going to talk about today. We've got 6 comic writers we're going to talk about. Obviously, with me is El Percherino himself. Perch, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. So this is exciting for me. You put in a couple of names. I put in a few names. So this is a mixed list. This isn't just me today. It's Perch and my list. And I do want to say this before we get into the details. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Give us a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, we want to know who you think are the up-and-coming writers people should be watching out for heading into 2021 and into the future. Also, we are going to follow this up with the up-and-coming comic book artists that you should be watching out for. And we definitely want to know who the hot names that we missed that should have made this list. Who do you think that we missed? Now, the first one is near and dear to my heart. David M. Booher. He writes novels and he writes comic books. He hasn't gotten any work at the big 2 yet, but his Canto comic at IDW is one of the best sellers. The follow-up Canto 2, The Hollow Men, is currently an ongoing miniseries right now. Fantastic. And Alien Bounty Hunter, I believe, was from Vault Comics back when they first started. He's been on the channel before. He's one of the nicest guys I've met in the industry. He's a terrific writer. You think about Canto, a mix-up of what is it? The Wizard of Oz and Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And he does it seamlessly.
It's a really good book. It's original and new. And one of the things that I think we'll get to in this list, we talked to all these people, you'll notice this common thread of a lot of original ideas, things that are new, people taking a chance and bringing something you haven't read before, something that isn't derivative over and over and over. No, I think this is a great book. It's only a matter of time before he is at least offered other work in other groups, because he has a really great storytelling ability. And I think it's, if you haven't heard of Canto, you haven't seen the review here on this channel, this is, I think, accessible by lots of different genres. You can like many different things, and you will like this.
I can tell you this. I read this with my son when it first came out, and he liked it. But he didn't love it. But I just read it with him, I think last week. We finally finished it up. We read the first, the 6 issues of Canto, and he loved it so much. It's an all ages comic book, but it doesn't pander to children. It doesn't there's a little bit of frightening in there, kind of like the original Wizard of Oz. And I think he liked that. I think that's one of the things that my son liked about it, that it was a little bit scary, and they weren't just pandering to him. They were presenting him a good story.
Yeah, I think this is what YA arguably should be. I mean, with my own kids as well, the stuff that comes across as super kind of pandering, they won't touch. So this doesn't read like it's written to just kids. It has a story that adults will like, and it's. But I mean, it handles things with maturity. It's a great book. I can't say enough. He's a great talent.
Absolutely. So I think he's got some. As far as the people on this list, he's probably got the second smallest portfolio of comic books. But like I said, he's a lawyer. He's also written some novels as well. But he is definitely an up-and-comer you should be watching out for. Mm-hmm. Next is a name a lot of people probably know, Daniel Warren Johnson, maybe better known for being an artist, but he has written Murder Falcon, Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, Ghost Fleet, and Extremity.
Yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson is great, and I think he has been in the business for a few years, but he's still relatively unknown, I would think. He has a new mullet something coming out. He's got a new book coming, but Murder Falcon was a lot of fun. I mean, in terms of being able to mix some real nostalgia with kind of horror elements and a kind of a really good hook and a plot. I think his Wonder Woman Dead Earth was quite solid as well, of doing some really unique things in kind of an Elseworld type world. I mean, is another person who brings a lot of creativity and new stuff to the page, and I think he's absolutely someone to watch. Now, the big two have discovered him, obviously, with Wonder Woman, and I think we're going to see more and more. He's going to get sucked up into the bigger publishers for sure. Just he tells a great story.
So do you think he's going to go the Frank Miller route where, he started out as a writer, artist, but, he's going to get enough acclaim over time, he's going to have to kind of give up the artistry and go strictly writing?
I hope not. I mean, in at least statements he's made in the past, he likes doing both, and there's certainly a world for doing both. There's a lot of creators who are able to do that, and that's kind of their gimmick, their bit. And I want him to continue because I do. This is about writers, but his art I think is also very unique. Has a scratchy feel to it, and just brings something.
Accentuates his writing style. They mix perfectly, as you would imagine.
Exactly. So kind of like Scotty Young, I think, has that when he does both. It's a similar kind of feel. So Danny Warren Johnson, I think definitely somebody to keep your eye on. This guy is who knows? Maybe one day he'll be a new Thunderbolt, or what is it? Not Thunderbolt. Stormbreaker. I don't know what I'm saying.
Stormbreaker. There we go. He could be a Stormbreaker and a Thunderbolt. Marvel's a select group of elite writers they've decided are going to be big time.
There you go. That stupid term. Sorry, it's too early.
All right, so next on the list is maybe a little bit controversial, but Eve Ewing. Now, she had petitioned Marvel because she said she had a similar haircut and background to Riri Williams and Ironheart. And eventually she got the gig, and it turned out, while that wasn't your typical way of getting into Marvel Comics and writing a character like Ironheart, she's a pretty good writer. Not the best writer, but if you look at her portfolio of writing, it's like 15 comic books. It's not really all that much. Although I will say this. When I read Marvel Team Up, which was Spider-Man and Miss Marvel, I did not like that one. But
no, that was clunky, yeah.
I don't think she was allowed to let Miss Marvel fail, or I don't know if she didn't allow herself to do that because of the character. That one fell flat, but her work on Ironheart certainly looks like she's very promising. She's obviously doing the Outlawed event, which I don't expect to do very well. But eventually, I think if she takes her work on Ironheart, which is ending soon, expands on it, she will move up to some A-list characters, and I think that she can definitely break through some glass ceilings.
Yeah, so I guarantee there's some people in the comments who are immediately going to go with nope here, but I'll give this argument. I mean, she's on Ironheart. She's doing Champions right now, as was mentioned, involved in Outlawed. She writes these characters. I mean, you think of a Brian Michael Bendis doing, introducing Ironheart and kind of that character and the mess that was that character's introduction. You think about Mark Waid, who did Champions, and kind of how that title had a lot of clunky moments. She has come on and done a dramatically better take on these characters than these established, decade veteran writers. And the biggest reason is her characters have flaws. I mean, it sounds so silly, but they're actually three-dimensional. They actually have depth, and the story reads much better as a result. I think, the new Champions book is night and day compared to what we got from the original run. And a lot of it has to do with the fact these characters are not invincible. They're making mistakes. There's triumph and there's loss and failure, and that's what you would expect. So, like you mentioned, she had one of the weirdest incomings to Marvel that you can imagine with all this stuff, and got maybe deservedly panned for this idea that you're hired for these kind of superficial values. But her writing skill, she brought it to the page, and she proved that she actually is doing a much better job with these characters than a lot of people who've been in the industry for 20, 30 years. Again, she writes kids and that genre just worlds better than a Mark Waid, who is an established name in this industry. So I think I'm curious to see where it goes. The Marvel Team Up book, I completely agree with you. It was weird and clunky, and it actually was the opposite of what she's brought in her other books. So I'm interested to see where it goes. If you're going to do YA, you're going to take these kids. I mean, at least get somebody who knows how to write them. And Ewing seemed to figure that out. Yep,
she appears to be a natural comic book storyteller. I think she needs to work on some of her dialogue and things like that. But it was there were big noticeable improvements on Ironheart and Champions. Marvel Team Up. Hopefully that was a hiccup along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the next one we're going to talk about easily has the smallest comic book portfolio, but she has written novels as well. Katana Collins, I believe she's also the better half of established comic book artist and writer Sean Gordon Murphy. She recently debuted Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn. She's also got some work in Harley Quinn Black, White, and Red, where she's, obviously that's an anthology book. So she doesn't have a lot of credits, but I know you were really impressed with her take on Harley Quinn within the White Knight universe.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for a new, and now she, again, it's cheating. She does definitely have some skills or some novels under her belt and some other writing. But Harley Quinn was a solid book. I mean, in many cases, picked up on a lot of threads, added some depth, told a story that moved along kind of really well. These sounds like very shallow things, but this is what it takes to put out a good book. And so I've been impressed. I mean, again, it's very new, but this whole thing is new and up and coming creators. We'll see where they go. We don't have enough content under the belt, but anxious to see where the series goes. Harley Quinn is a character that's been written like 1,000 different ways by a number of different writers, and obviously the White Knight universe is kind of a completely different take on the whole character. But it felt like a more true representation of what how that character ticks, and the other people within Gotham and everything else. The way she handled the supporting characters. Again, it's one issue, so I may be eating crow here if 3 issues from now it all goes off the cliff. But it was a very impressive debut. I thought the Black, White, and Red story was again solid. She knows how to work with the pages. She knows how to tell a story that fits the amount of pages she's given, that feels complete and feels like you're actually getting something substantive. So I'm anxious to see where she goes. I was impressed. Typically when there's a spouse or somebody who comes in, you always feel like there's a bit of a crutch, and it's will you get a good story out there? But I think she proved she belongs at the table.
Well, like I said, she has plenty of writing credits outside of the comic book industry.
Exactly. Yeah.
It appears that she's got her handle of Harley Quinn moving forward, and I imagine she'll be getting more work as things go along. The next one, I think this is Philip Kennedy Johnson. I think he has a pretty high ceiling as far as where he can go. It appears that DC Comics feel that way as well. He was part of their DC Comics New Talent Showcase. I think they have like a writers program with, I think it's led by Scott Snyder, and he was a part of that. He has currently got The Last God on Black Label with like an ongoing fantasy title. Probably my favorite DC series, like as far as ongoings right now. I absolutely love that one. Ricardo Federici, as far as the art, has been amazing. I believe he did a one-off Marvel Zombie Resurrection that has led to another Marvel Zombie comic that's going now. He also wrote Kong, God of Skull Island. So he's got some credits there, but he's going to be writing in the upcoming DC Future State. He's going to be writing one of the Superman stories. He's also got another one-shot. I believe it's House of L. I believe that's what it is in Future State. So I think he's somebody that DC has earmarked for bigger and better things. He's finally going to get a move up and write one of the premier characters. He's also an active duty member of the United States military. He's in the Army band. I believe he plays the trumpet. So if you read The Last God, there are original poems, original songs in the back, and it's also spawned out its own like D&D game.
Yeah,
cool stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's got he's interesting because he's accomplished a lot in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, he's, of all the creators we're talking about, I think he's worked with almost every major publisher at this point, and he's got a lot of good material. And the interesting thing about him is it really varies. Like his storytelling and what he does is significantly different from title to title. It's not he doesn't typecast kind of how he writes. He's done a lot of different things. It's going to be interesting to see how the year rolls out for him, because he, as you mentioned, I think DC is definitely loving what they're getting on Last God, and there is this sense that he is tapped for more. At the same time, Marvel is really happy with the Marvel Zombies Resurrection book, and there's at least he was teasing that there's some amazing project that Marvel has tapped him for that is coming up that is a dream come true. So we haven't heard what that is yet, but he's very
Captain America. Captain America.
Yes, yeah, that would be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. He is made for a good Captain America run. I think he is. he's definitely got a lot of talent. I think 2021 is going to be the year where we see some major things out of him from one company or the other. And I think he's really versatile as a creator, incredibly versatile.
Absolutely. He's got a bright future. Now, this next creator, I think he has the highest ceiling, and I think he's the furthest along as far as his career, and that is Ram V. Mm-hmm. He started out on Action Lab Comics. I believe it was called A Brigand's Tale. There's a sequel called Ruin of Thieves, A Brigand's Tale. Then he went over to Vault. Did These Savage Shores. This is like one of the best horror comic books you're ever going to read. And recently he's been working on Catwoman and Justice League Dark. Now, Justice League Dark, you can tell that's still James Tynion's story, which he got pulled off of to go work on Batman. So he's kind of finishing James Tynion's work on Justice League Dark. But Catwoman, specifically Catwoman 25, was all him. He definitely, that was a superior version of Catwoman that we've gotten before that, even with Joelle Jones on that. And I think he's got the highest ceiling, and I think he will be a major player, probably at DC Comics. Obviously, that's where he's getting his work now. But eventually he's going to go over and work with Marvel as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're in for at least a few years, I think, of DC here. Now with Ram V, I think DC very much has him kind of tapped for big things, and he will be. I would suspect he'll be put on one of the books coming up in March as DC kind of relaunches. Not one of the top books, but one of the kind of the second string of books. I mean, this is a guy you could see potentially, permanently taking over a Justice League Dark or a title like Aquaman or Hawkman or something like that. I can see that kind of alignment for him. But I agree. I think he's, from all reports, is a nice, calm, normal person. Just gets the scripts in, gets the work done, has a pretty growing and solid fan base, and is well liked, in at least from what I've heard. So, I'm with you. I think there's a big ceiling. I think probably 2021 is going to be very kind to him and early. I think we'll. Like I said, I suspect in March we'll hear that he's on a book, and we're seeing a lot from him. So, yeah, I think he does great. And
just like Philip Kennedy Johnson, a very versatile writer, A Brigand's Tale, Ruin of Thieves is kind of like fantasy comics. These Savage Shores is a period piece horror comic. Justice League Dark is a horror, superhero comic. Catwoman, street level superhero, anti-hero, I guess. So he's very versatile. He can move around within the characters and everything like that. And that is going to be key because he's not just a horror writer, folks. He can do it all.
Yep, absolutely. Very, very versatile guy.
All right, so that'll basically wrap up our list of 6 up-and-coming creators or as far as writers you should know. We will definitely be talking about artists somewhat in the near future. Let us know, who did you agree with the list? Who did we forget? Who are we wrong on? Are we just stupid for adding Eve Ewing? I think we had the right idea. Perch and I definitely can't wait to hear from you guys. Obviously, there will be a link in the video description to Perch's comic book YouTube channel. There's also going to be an icon on the screen at the very end of the video if you want to go subscribe to his channel that way. Perch, is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap this up?
I just want to say thank you for having me on. And this is a video. We should come back in a couple of weeks, and we probably could come out and do another video of 6 more writers. That's a great thing about up-and-coming writers is there's so many out there, and you always remember a couple later. And so we'll have to keep going with this.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to hear see the names that I haven't heard of in the comment section. I go discover a couple of new great writers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right. Later, brother.
Later.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.